Can you give us a bit of the F1 theme tune?
Formula 1 theme tune, ready?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I can't believe it.
Hello and welcome back to the Fast and the Curious with me, Betty Glover, Christian Hugill and Greg James. We're all in the studio together.
Greg's making me laugh like a child. Sorry for giggling at the start of the podcast.
You two are starting to annoy
We've
me
not
already.
seen each other for a while, and it does feel like naughty brothers when you get back together for a while.
We're giddy. Giddy today.
We are reunited, and I think it is probably something to do with the fact that, you know, the season is about to end.
It is.
It's the last week of the season, but probably more so because we've got a global superstar with us for this one.
Yeah.
Sam Ryder,
Hello.
welcome back to the Fast
How's it
and the
going,
Curious.
guys?
This feels.
Thank you for having me in the flesh in the studio.
This feels right.
This
It feels
feels
good.
good.
Do you know what? It feels Christmassy now.
I enjoy this.
Yeah, this is really nice. This is a good run up to the end of the season. Big episode with you. We're so happy to see you again. It's been a while. Actually, we saw each other briefly at Silverstone,
Yes, we did.
but we've
Yeah,
done
yeah, yeah.
episodes before. Our Christmas episode last year, we did the big Christmas thing at Mercedes-Benz World.
Yeah, we did. And before that, it was at the
British Grand Prix last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was at the exit of Silverstone, I think.
It was,
We were just
exit
hanging
of
out
Paddock.
outside, and
Yeah, we were just standing by the gates.
that was
weren't
so
we?
Yeah.
cool.
And it was glorious sunshine when we did that. And then the contrast
Yeah.
of seeing you this year, I don't know if you remember, Sam, but you gave me a lovely hug. And I had to say to you, like, advance warning, I'm soaked. We'd ran to the Hilton Hotel where McLaren were based.
Yeah.
And we'd just got caught in a pouring rain. And then when you're soaking wet, Sam Ryder comes and gives you a hug. It's like, it's lovely to see you, but also I'm absolutely minging. So, I'm sorry. Please be okay with this.
Sam doesn't care. What have you been up to then? Because I hear you've been in Nashville for
Yes.
2 weeks.
Well, actually, a couple of months I was there. Bit of LA as well. Everyone loves LA / not. But I was there just writing for the next album. So I've just heard, like, I'm not very tech savvy, right? I don't know about VPNs and stuff like that. I've just heard that you can, and you guys have even
man.
like got a partnership where
Yeah, you're on
you
the
can
right
watch
place.
like the race.
Oh yeah.
When you're abroad. Do you know how many dodgy, weird stream sites I've had to go on and the pop-ups I've had to get rid of
Yeah.
to just like watch a fraction of a race before it sort of comes on?
So you're aware Max Verstappen's world
I do.
champion?
Yep, I know.
You're up to
I
date
know.
with everything, are you?
Yeah, what else?
It
What
was
else did we
shock
tell him?
horror when I found out.
Yeah. Were you like us? You got carried away because I know you're quite Labrador energy as well.
Yeah, I
You-
was in
you
the
got
Lando
camp.
Norris flex
Yeah.
for a bit.
We
Just
all got
thinking,
carried
could
away
it?
with Lando, didn't we? We got
No.
carried away.
Yeah.
No.
You
didn't?
You-
No.
Yeah.
See, Christian's
Feet
red,
on the ground.
He's red energy, is
Yeah.
Christian, so he's
Sorry,
very
I just-
like...
Not at any point thought
So there
that.
was no point that something stirred inside.
I thought Max was going to... I thought from very early days that McLaren are in the Constructors' battle. That drum I've been banging since Miami.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't think Max was going to let his grip go of the title, unfortunately.
We're all dreamers, you
Next
see.
Yeah.
year...
Yeah.
Next year could be very different.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Go straight off next year.
Well, whatever he
I've
thinks.
gotten rid of. I've
I'm
had
the
enough of
opposite.
dreaming.
I'm the opposite of what he thinks, always. Nah, I think it'd be Max again. No?
I think that I'm already for next year thinking. I think
Who?
it's a. You want me
Piastri.
to predict next year's world champion now?
Yeah.
I do actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Actually,
quite
come to
interested.
think of it, yes, I do.
Oscar Piastri.
Oh!
World champion!
Yeah.
That would
Would
be
love
so
that.
good.
I'm on that with you.
Genuinely,
Oscar as well?
Yeah, I said Piastri before.
you forced me right now
I
to
am-
pick a
I
champion
am
for next
forcing you.
year, and it's far too early. But it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh my God, that would be so
I think
good.
I think he's got the cool head needed, but he's also a little bit of a sleeper. Like he's quite feisty
Yeah.
as
The,
well.
the step
Oh,
up,
he's solid. He's
Yeah.
nails, isn't he?
the step up he's made from season 1 to season 2, and then into season 2 now, makes me think that the step up into season 3 of his career will be enough. Because at the moment, this year, Lando's done a better job. You know, the points
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
lie. Lando's been better throughout the year. But that said, Lando's got years on him, and I think that next year is going to be really close between those two. And I've just something in me that thinks Oscar might have the edge. And I'm looking forward to this being clipped up on social media and me getting relentless hate from Lando Norris fans. So hello to you.
Oh, I
Drop in the comments below.
But it's fair game, isn't it? You got to choose. You got to choose one person right now who's going to be world champ. What do you reckon, Greg?
Yeah. Well, we have been banging that Piastri drum since day one, really.
Yeah, I
And
do.
I think we have talked about it before, where we said there's a strong chance here that Oscar might become world champion before Lando. So we have talked
We
about that
have
before.
always said that, haven't
But
we?
next season would be that's a great shout.
I think
I'd love
I think
that.
Lando's right in it. And by the way, this debate this year, there's been a lot of debate this year on, is Lando good enough to win a world championship? I think he is, yes. And I've said this year there's been times Lando's not been up to the battle with Max, and I've got criticism for that. Well, why do you hate Lando? I don't. I really like Lando. I think he's a huge talent, and I think he is capable of winning a world championship, and I think he could easily be world champion next year. And if he'd probably be my second pick for next year. But there's just something with Oscar's mentality and his calmness that makes me think.
What do you think?
Got a feeling.
Who you running with?
I think it will probably be Lando. I'd love it to be Oscar, and I think that's a brilliant shout.
I'd love it to be Lando.
I'd
be
be Lando.
stoked if Lando got it.
I feel like McLaren as a team will play it differently next year. They're gonna be in it from the start, aren't they? And I think they're gonna.
Every year
team
they've
orders Lando.
like compounded on their success of the previous years. So I remember, was it last season where it was only at Silverstone where they started showing performance, and then this season's way earlier.
Miami this year, really.
Yeah. So you
That's
kind of
true.
go to next season, you're thinking it could be race one. We're seeing.
And let's remember, it's the last year of a rule set where, historically speaking, I always say this in F1, when people ask me to make predictions, I do like to look back and see what the sport's taught us historically. And the last year of a rule set, everybody tends to get closer. You've eked everything out you can.
That's interesting.
So I think next year, and I'm not just saying this to hype the podcast, I think next year will be an all-time classic season.
Yeah.
I think it will be one of the first seasons since the early 2010s where we've got multiple. I don't think we're going to have a two-way fight for the title. I think we're going to have a 3 or 4-way fight for
Because
the
we
title.
haven't said about Ferrari.
So I knew you were going to say
Lewis
this 'cause
Hamilton, Ferrari.
we're being telepathic here.
We are.
Because I was just thinking, actually, Betty, the great story
Yeah.
would be Lewis next year.
He's got
He's due something.
He's due
a win. He's due some good luck as well.
he
he's
needs
due
to
a
go
big
away over the
turnaround.
winter and sort his head out.
I think he is, but I think this is.
I think he's playing mind games with everyone.
But I think he's.
I don't.
Same here.
Well,
Do
I-
you? Do you?
100%.
Do you think it's mind
yeah,
games?
100%. He's my hero. He's got it. Like you have to believe he's playing mind games, because also, just quickly before we move on from Lando as well, the reason that I think Lando, for me, has championship mentality is the move he pulled in the sprint with Oscar against team orders, giving that, and that was a
What,
Tekker's
letting Oscar back,
yeah,
giving Oscar that
and
win that he
repaying
owed
that,
him.
because
Yeah.
that was a Tekker's move as well. It could have easily gone wrong.
Oh,
it
could
was
have.
So
it was
true.
tiramisu, wasn't it? Is that the right dessert? Like every layer was close, and that will
stunning
be a
analogy.
tiramisu season
That's brilliant.
next year. But like that took I think a lot of guts for him to do that, and it shows that he has the sort of the boldness and the jagged edges that Max has, I think, Lando, but also the grace that we see in Lewis, and you pair them together, and I think that it's championship soup, I think.
Championship
So
soup.
again, like I said, my heart wants Lewis to get it, of course, every year, but like I think Oscar could do it, but I'd be stoked if Lando did. Yeah, it's all to play for. I'm just excited. Like you said, last season before the rule book gets changed is always fireworks. It's great.
Just on Lewis, though, obviously he really sounds like he's lost his head. He sounds quite sad. He's saying that he's slow and that he's getting older, and it feels like he's sort of really lost all sense of everything. Do you think that's a bit of a mind game?
I think I want to believe it's mind games, but I think what you guys were chatting about in the last episode was really cool, that it depends on your work environment. Sometimes that can be brought out in how you feel and stuff like that. I think he's far too much of a champ to be truly for that not to just be a bad moment and a down day. I think his worth and he's made of much sterner stuff than to have a season of bad qualifying for that to really be just the nail in the coffin. He's been around too long, and he's just too much of a goat for that to happen.
If it is a tactic, it's an odd tactic. Because Ferrari watching that being like, oh God, who's he got here?
Yeah, but he shows it on. Lewis has always been everything on track. So we all know that, not dissimilar to boxing, Formula One's a performative sport when it comes to the paddock and interviews, and he's always been about doing the job on track. And you know, in multiple races, even if he's not smashing it out the park in quali. He's the fastest car on track in race.
Yeah, so I sort of agree with what Sam said, and I sort of disagree in some areas. On the qualifying front, I don't think Lewis Hamilton has ever been a gold standard qualifier. Now, when you consider he's got the most pole positions in Formula 1 history, that's a mad thing to say. But there were times when Valtteri Bottas was his teammate that Valtteri would get him in qualifying. I actually don't believe one lap strength is Lewis's top elite strength. And I think we've seen that this weekend. But seen that this season. But Sam, exactly as you said, how many times this season have we seen him come alive on race day over a Grand Prix distance? So that's why he's won world championships. Sunday performances. I think he's beatable on a Saturday. So often he's been unbeatable on a Sunday. But pre-Mercedes era of dominance, the late McLaren era before he made the move, we saw Lewis lose his head a little bit. You know, this has happened in Formula 1 before. The first season where he was alongside Jenson Button, you know, Jenson seemed a more rounded figure. Jenson scored more points over the first season. In fact, across Lewis and Jenson's time as teammates at McLaren, Jenson scored more points overall. Lewis wasn't in a strong mental position. I think that's happened. I don't think it's a ploy. I think Lewis has possibly overestimated the size of the task to have a full season knowing you're leaving, and I think it has started to mentally affect him. But where I think Lewis is a champion is I think he's capable of going away, rebuilding and coming back stronger next season. But my goodness me, has he got a hard job up against Charles Leclerc, who I think is now coming into his peak.
There's surely some parallels with your job. You have to turn it on and off, and then you're away for a bit, and then you're on stage, then you're touring relentlessly. Like, you've just been away sort of writing and things. Yeah. Then you've got to come back and be back.
Yeah.
It does take it mentally takes its toll, doesn't it?
It's interesting because, like, I love sitting and chatting all the nerdy stuff for you guys that just live and breathe this sport. It's so cool. But and when you're into something that kind of coincides, whether it's presenting or writing or anything that you guys do as well as this, you always link your hobby into what you do professionally. So like when I sing, I'm literally seeing tyres in my head. Like, how am I going to save? Yeah. It sounds stupid, but it is. I always see it like, how am I going to preserve, like, singing if we've got a whole festival season of 30 odd shows around.
That's fascinating. I'm thinking, not wearing out your soft tyres.
Exactly.
Over a race.
Wow.
So I'm like, don't go for it.
Degradation.
In the first song, you can always, the adrenaline's kicking in. You're like, now you've got to show up for the crowd and stuff, but don't overcook it in that first, because it's the same thing. You always draw parallels, and that's just how, if you love something so much, that's what you do, because it kind of makes you feel close. And I think that's why I love Lewis so much, because you see someone who is the underdog, and if you think that you're an underdog in yourself, as so many of us do, really, you know, we all never think we're gonna get to these places or fulfill dreams that we have, or, you know, it's easy to have dreams, but staying active on dreams is a totally different situation. So when you see people that have come from that level, you think, even if you're not a racing driver, it doesn't matter what you do, you're like, I can do that. And that's why those figures in any sport are so important. And that's why I know that he's built a legacy, not just on track to me, but it's about humanity, and it's about never giving up. So when I say it's mind games, is I know that he is it's far more important for him to never give up, because he knows he's built so many people up on that message.
But it must be weird for you, having, like, sort of being on a sort of a down, sort of slower period of your career and having to write music. Do you feel that pressure to get songs out? And
No, I think one thing we've really tried to honour this last year is being able to step away and make work, because and I don't know what it's like in different sectors of the industry, in different disciplines or crafts or anything like that, but music particularly, you're kind of you're always told never stop, never go away, and just stay there. And what I've seen, I'm so glad that I've basically put my phone in a drawer for the most part of this year, and just picked up guitars and played drums and made music and wrote stuff. But when I've started now being on social media a bit more and just getting ready for when we release the next music, I've noticed a lot of people that don't do that, they've just been putting music out that's been following whatever the trends are, and that's not what I think should happen. Every single industry, and it's human nature to have a break And it's not necessarily a break in sort of dotage. It's just a break to come away and do your work, because the rest of it's showing off. And I mean that wholeheartedly. It's showing off. It's getting on stage. It's doing interviews and being a massive show off. But the bit where you go away and sit in the studio and find how the snare drum sounds best, or writing the stuff that no one, that's really important to make music.
Just having some space in your brain to be creative.
Yeah, because otherwise you're reactive, and that's not the same as creative.
And also you've got to work out what you want to say on the next record.
Exactly.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? And you go away and you go work out what the world is.
Concept album.
It's about tyres.
You talk about a concept album. We've seen Formula One release, I use the term music loosely, with like Will I Am.
The Will I Am song.
Oh, come on.
Oh, God.
So surely,
hang on, we got to play a bit of it.
oh, it's Greg's favourite thing in the world.
Please.
Surely, if they wanted to go, let's respect everyone. If they wanted to go in a different creative direction, release some F1 based music or do a version of the theme tune, surely that'd be a dream gig for you, right?
Yeah, but it's got to be. It's not about releasing F1 music. It's about putting music out that just so happens to fit. It's like the Chain, Fleetwood Mac, right? And they didn't think, I wonder if how good this would sound if Murray Walker was shouting over the top.
Let's make the Formula One
but
theme
it
tune.
just so happened to be wicked.
Yeah.
And but when you start kind of making something, trying to, I guess, to manipulate it to work in your favour, that's when, like Quincy Jones always said that's when God leaves the room, right? Or when
you can't try too hard.
Exactly.
I think God left the room on this one. I think God gave up with this one.
It's the lyrics.
This was on the
lyrics.
7th day, I think.
This is the formula.
One.
This is the formula.
One.
This is the formula.
Now, it's not subtle, is it?
No.
This is the formula. Yep. This is the formula. 8.
He knows all the ad-libs.
1.
This should be our podcast theme tune.
Will I Am
shouldn't it?
there?
Should be.
No, it
This
should
is the
no.
formula.
This is the
When
Fast
you
and
play it on your
Furious.
phone, it's quite a vibe. It was when it was quite stark when it was live on the grid. And when any music live on the grid, that is a destination where music was not meant to be played.
No,
it
sure.
never. It's rare. I mean, I'm like when I got to sing it was such a cool moment singing on the grid. But they basically hand you a bingo microphone. And it's like you can't hear anything because you've got these glorious engines like roaring.
Oh,
and
God.
as a fan, you're like, I do not care. I just want to hear, that Merc sounds sick.
George, can you turn your engine down, dear? Turn it off. I'm trying to sing the national anthem.
But it's rock solid to try and,
Yeah.
just can't hear anything.
Well, last time we got you on the podcast, about this time last year, you sung the F1 theme tune for us. And it was
God.
one of the best moments of my life.
Of your
It
life.
sounded
your
so
life.
It was the
good.
best moment of my life. I think.
You're-
Sorry, I'm not saying this for a comic bit. I think about it a lot.
It was excellent.
So you're all looking in my eyes and lying to me right now.
No.
Well,
But I mean,
you have brought your guitar.
I haven't bought any guitar. That's Louis and you guys stitching me up to have a guitar, but I'll do it.
Bring in the guitar, please. Can you
Actually,
can you
Look what Louis found lying around.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of the F1 theme tune? But you don't need to. You can play it with the guitar this time. I think last time we just all chanted
just-
it
I
like,
think it was.
like some weird cult.
Or like we're at Millwall
A lot of
away.
people
Yeah.
doing George Russell
Yeah.
poses and
Yeah, we were.
while actual sort of Mercedes professionals were milling around the room.
Yeah.
going,
I mean, Bradley
What have we
Lord was
done?
there.
did you not have a piano? Or did I make that up in
No,
my
you
head?
made that up,
I
I
unfortunately.
made that. I
Yeah.
imagine that. That was in my
No,
dream.
This
you're-
memory of the best
Yeah.
day of your life.
You're thinking of Bradley Lord. That's what we had. Bradley Lord, not a piano. People often get the two mixed up.
Formula One theme tune, ready?
Right,
Yeah?
right.
I can't believe it. It's quite Arabic, huh? This bit.
It is a good tune, isn't it?
It is quite cool.
Sam Ryder, everybody.
Can you give us Can you give us like
First
a
live
candle?
performance in some time,
Can you
actually.
give us a
that.
candlelight version of it? Like
A
a slow,
can- oh,
you know,
yeah,
to
I'll
like
do that.
Plug it back in.
one of my favourite ones. You know, DJ Sammy, Heaven. And people do like the candlelight. Oh, nothing continue with me.
Oh, that is an absolute tune. That.
That's a reference to get from the Radio 1 Breakfast DJ Sammy in Heaven.
Guys, listen.
Yeah, it's quite.
Christian, I can imagine if you ever got
Walking down
married,
the
you
aisle.
walking down the aisle to this.
Please.
Can you imagine?
Can we?
Can I do it?
Can we?
Yeah, go on,
Okay,
Sam, do
can we have the lights down? Can we have the lights down?
Sam, the answer to that question, by the way, is yes.
We are.
Here we go.
Oh,
Oh, it's beautiful.
I want to listen to it in the bath with a scented candle.
this is actually so lovely. What?
Oh, I need this for the end of the season. This is just beautiful.
We're all glad you're feeling better. I could just keep
It's
going.
so nice.
It's
You,
just
you
lovely.
walking down the aisle with a little bunch of flowers.
Are we making my wedding an on-air feature now? Are we?
Yes.
It's like the Twilight wedding.
Oh, please, can we do it? Please get married.
David, if you're watching, propose
Oh,
to him.
David will see this. My boyfriend will see this. He just will. Yeah.
He'll love it, won't he?
His brother and best friend listen to the podcast. This will be sent to him so quickly, it's unbelievable. Oh, wow. Hello, Ian, Rose, and Chris, if you're listening.
We
Fantastic.
get an engine noise on it.
It really
No,
works.
he'll come down the aisle in a little car.
Well, I know. Right, okay.
Like one of those ones the little kids drive.
The
like
worrying
those
thing is,
plastic
David would be
ones.
up for all this as well.
I can.
You give
I
me
can do
a
the
call,
ceremony.
mate, when it's happening.
Oh
I'll do
my
the ceremony if you like.
God.
I'll
Right.
bring a guitar with a big checkered flag. sort of
Genuinely quite worried about this.
You're,
Me,
oh my
well,
God.
me and Greg will be your bridesmaids with like
Flags.
a checkered flag
Yeah.
walking behind you.
How's this happened?
Hello, Greg and Betty here, interrupting this episode with a reminder that even though we're closing in on the end of the season, there's still a chance to get up close to the world of Formula One after the racing finishes. You should head to the F1 exhibition. It's toured all over the world now. It's at the XL Centre in London. Betty, you were at the launch event. Was it good?
It was very good, Greg. And actually, if you sort of have a free couple of hours, free few hours in your day and you're wondering what to do with yourself, you need to go to this. If you love Formula One or you're just interested in the sport, sort of getting to know it, it is like walking through a sort of encyclopedia of the sport. You learn so much. So you could spend all day in there if you wanted to and you didn't have anything else to do.
Christian would spend a week in there. Can
Yeah.
you Airbnb it? Because if you can, he would.
I think he would bring his sleeping bag and camp in the corner, wouldn't he? And just sort of stare.
I think he'd take a little Wendy house
Yeah.
and just sleep next to his favourite car from the old days.
But do you know what? It is so cool because there's like so many different immersive rooms that sort of take you through the past, the present, and then also like the future of Formula One. And you can see so much detail. If this and you're a bit of a geek, Greg. You pretend you're not, but you really are a bit of a geek.
No,
You
you're right.
love seeing like the details about how cars are designed and all of that stuff. So you would love it. But one of the most fascinating bits for me was seeing the Romain Grosjean, the car that he obviously crashed in at the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2020. And they've got the sort of remains of the car in the middle of a room, but it is fascinating to see. And then on the screen, it sort of takes you through how the crash happened and what happened there. And it is honestly so good to see because he survived. He walked out of that car, which is so impressive. So
Well, if you're a sicko like Betty and you want to see a car crash, or you might want to hang out with Max Verstappen's actual car from that 2021 title battle and Ayrton Senna's 1988 championship-winning McLaren, then it's all there for you. They've recently extended the exhibition to the 2nd of March 2025 because it's due to popular demand. It's also selling out fast, so if you're thinking of giving yourself a little end-of-season treat, or it does work out as the perfect Christmas present for the F1 obsessive in your life, then head to f1exhibition.com. That's f1exhibition.com and have a nice time. And now, back to the broadcast. Your Formula One wedding will be so good.
Okay, right.
We get a sample of Murray at the end of it. Yeah. And it's go, go, go.
And the marriage is go.
Or if it goes from, I can't, but is it the Belgian Grand Prix where it all just goes
1998
absolutely...
Belgian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
oh my
I've
actually-
never in all my career.
Oh my God!
But it's actually...
Oh my God.
This could be amazing because, you know, the seating arrangement in the church, it's just grid positions.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a church, I can tell you that much.
Well, but in the wherever.
Yeah.
So you've just got grid. You've got grid. So like your family,
Yeah.
one position. Like
People you don't
one
want.
and two,
Grid
P1,
positions,
P2.
right, okay, yeah.
Like the people you don't really
And 'cause
like.
you're
Yeah,
such a
put
fan.
that
P20.
back.
You'll have 22 grid positions now in light of
Yes,
recently.
yeah, there'll be some from Andretti at the but not
Which
Andretti.
leads us seamlessly
Yeah.
from that segment
Wow.
into
doing some Formula 1 chat.
yeah.
We've done loads of
Wow.
Formula 1
This
chat.
guy.
We've got loads of Formula 1
We've
chat.
got all
What,
the Formula 1
what
chat.
else? What else do you want to talk about Formula 1 wise?
Well, who
Go
do you
on.
think is going to win the constructors then, Sam?
I think. Thanks so much.
God, this is heavy, isn't it?
It's beautiful as well.
Big
Looks like it
one.
belongs in Nashville.
I think McLaren are going to do it. I love the story of them doing it. Last time it was Mika Hakkinen that got them the constructors title. 98 was it? And that's in like the classic West livery, one of the nicest cars. So it'd be wicked. I don't know. Sometimes there's just moments in the history of the sport where you're like, I really want to see them do that. And I think it being made harder for them, like with the last call with the yellow flag, 10-second
Don't get
penalty.
me
was
started
pretty-
on that.
Yeah, which is pretty harsh. I'm getting flashbacks of like the Voldemort year that we don't speak of.
Oh,
yeah,
We'll
totally
never
right.
speak of
there
that.
and but yeah, I really want them to do it. So yeah.
Must
Xander
never say their
Voldemort.
name.
Xander Voldemort's lovely.
Sort of works.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
But
I can do
Christian,
that.
21 points
Yes.
separates them. Do you look at that as a big gap or a small gap? Because people say different things. Some people are like, Ferrari can close that down easily.
I look at it as a medium-sized gap, personally. I
Mighty
don't think
gap.
if you consider it's 25 points for a win, it's not a stupidly big gap. It's not a stupidly small gap. Sounds like I'm being silly, but it's not. It's for a constructors championship with one race to go. It's a medium-sized
Yeah.
gap.
One turn, one incident.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
it's-
Sam.
It's
all
one
open.
mistake.
So I would still fancy McLaren to do it, because looking at the Abu Dhabi track, and I could be wrong here, we're recording this podcast a few days out from the race, so it's too early to tell, but I don't see it being like a Ferrari dominant track. So I fancy them to be pretty even. So I think it's a slightly too big gap for Ferrari to overturn. If I had to put my money on it, I think it would be McLaren. As Sam alluded to, they were very unlucky with the way the race was managed by the FIA last weekend, and I know you spoke about this, Betty, in the debrief with Ruth, but that was really unlucky, the way Lando fell out the points because of what happened. That race should have been, yes, Lando should definitely have eased under the yellow flag, but we shouldn't have been under yellow flag conditions. That should have been a safety car when there was a great big piece of glass and carbon fibre lying in the middle of the circuit.
And the
Literally
amount
in the
of
braking zone.
time.
Yeah.
Turn one is crazy.
Yeah, so they've been unlucky.
And then the amount of time it took to make a decision as
that
well.
was
It's
just badly.
Precious laps. I always feel that when I'm like, I feel I'm getting robbed when I'm watching the race and like
Yeah,
these
yeah,
precious laps are dripping by.
Yeah.
And like, get it sorted. She's like,
I do.
Should have just been a safety car
Yeah.
straight away.
Just to be to play devil's avocado, one of my favourite snacks, is that I quite like the madness of this sport. So if you
Yeah.
do, and we always say this, we love the madness of the sport.
yeah.
So if you do truly love the madness of the sport, you've got to watch those bits and go, okay, that's annoying, but
Yeah.
also,
This is so F1.
what?
yeah.
This is so mad. You're so insane.
You've also
Yeah.
made this point before on the pod.
It's a
that-
circus. It's supposed to be
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah,
and
yeah.
Bottas hitting a wing mirror has thrown it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it's all run by humans who are fallible.
and life
Yeah.
isn't perfect. Yes,
Exactly,
absolutely.
and I
Greg.
always,
you're absolutely
always
spot
go
on.
on about this. But it always happens in cricket. People are like,
Yeah.
well, they need to. This is clear cut.
I love the
Nothing's clear
cricket,
cut.
the cricket sort of like language. No.
Yeah, well, they behave immorally. So, yeah, life isn't perfect. Therefore, sport, of course,
Yeah.
isn't perfect. So that
I
sort
love
of
that.
makes
And
it
you
amazing.
need that perspective.
But even you mentioning the 2021 season, that I know it's painful for lots of people,
Yeah.
but it's great. It was an amazing drama that we
Yeah.
all still talk about.
And,
Yeah.
and also, one thing while we're talking about all of this, I can't think of another sport, take cricket, take football, Betty Love, for example, where Formula One fans have become so quick to jump to conspiracy.
Oh, they love a
Zandvoort loses its
conspiracy.
place on the calendar. It's a conspiracy against Max. No, it isn't. It's because it's too small to fit enough fans in to make money. The safety car doesn't come out. Oh, it's a conspiracy against Lando or for Ferrari. No,
You
no,
love
it isn't.
don't you?
Well, it's stupid, isn't it?
It's just everybody jumps to conspiracy,
Yeah.
and that conspiracy just doesn't exist.
It's
I
the
mean,
world, I'm
good
afraid.
Lord. God love them for giving the sport so much credit that they think they can plan these conspiracies so
Yeah.
quickly. When a wing mirror falls off and there's someone thinking, let's make this favour Ferrari.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work like that,
They,
But
they,
it
guys.
they
is-
clearly don't know what they're doing. It's like, it's
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, it's,
Exactly.
that's as simple as it is.
Yeah,
That
like,
the sort of
They're all panicking.
the stewards' room is a trash fire, like going on
It's not
every weekend.
conspiracy, it's up.
Yeah, and it's brilliant.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, though.
Oh, I
Can you
must-
imagine?
Just hands and heads.
What is I mean, whatever the story is the story, and that's
Yeah.
what's fun about it, and that's why you two sort of went into journalism, really, isn't it? Like that's
Love a
part of
story.
it. Is like the story is the juicy
Yeah.
bit, whatever it is.
Telling stories is something I've always loved to
and finding the truth and finding out what it is. But whatever happens with McLaren, it will be interesting because our last episode of the season is going to be at the MTC.
Yes.
So we're going to be at McLaren headquarters. Recording on the 12th, I think. So it's after the final race. So we're going to be in there, and it's either going to be jubilation or it's going to be, I don't
all
know,
a bit awkward, frankly.
awkward. But again, a great story. I would love it to be celebratory, but also,
Yeah, but I think something our guests will say, the brilliant Randy Singh
oh yeah,
and Will, Lando's race engineer,
we
is-
did it well.
we
We did it well.
is that
That's him.
even they'll be disappointed, no question, if they don't win the Constructors' Championship. But what a step forward for McLaren this year, and for all
Yeah.
people like me when they've not taken advantage of certain situations, given them a bit of stick. The step forward from last year to this for McLaren
Dude, 2
has
seasons
been,
ago, that car
Sam,
tractor.
Bahrain 20,
Yeah.
Bahrain
Oh
last
my
season,
God.
the slowest
So
car on the
slow.
grid, the slowest car on the grid.
Yeah.
Bahrain start of last season.
Yeah, so
so
interesting.
we should give McLaren credit, even
Yeah.
if they don't win this constructors
Also,
championship.
just remember those scenes in Miami when Lando won, and we were all just like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
It's happening.
this is incredible! This is happening."
Yeah.
Didn't expect it
And-
necessarily.
Again, I was on the ground that race, and all the talk in the paddock was McLaren are quick, and it's quick. It's not flash in the pan quick. They're
Yeah,
going to
they've
be quick.
nailed
These
it.
upgrades, they are right in it. And sure enough, those whispers were spot on. From that moment on, McLaren became proper title contenders, possibly a little sooner than even they realised.
Things change very quickly. I mean, we were chatting to Oscar, who was our first sort of proper interview in person, and that car, as you said, to quote Sam Ryder, a tractor. But look how things move in a couple of seasons, and
Very
let's talk
quickly.
about some of the newbies, because that grid is
Yeah.
going to be entirely different next year. So, Kimi Antonelli, Jack Doohan, Ollie Behrman, Gabriel Bortoletto, those are the newbies, plus Lewis going to Ferrari. That's exciting as well.
Yep.
What excites you about the new crop? Who do you like?
I think it's wicked to see, especially when the new talent's coming through. If they kind of match the trajectory or even come close to Oscar's trajectory, that's fascinating to me, because we've been used over the last couple of seasons seeing new faces on the grid. They kind of don't make the impact for whatever reason, and it's not always just because of ability. There's so many factors in the
Yeah.
sport as to why someone might not break through, and it's brutal. And I always feel for those drivers, because the stars didn't align. But I just got a good feeling about the new faces joining the grid this year.
If you
Sorry,
think that
next
the
year.
first two driver guests on the Fast and the Curious when we started at the start of last season were Logan Sargent and Oscar Piastri, and doesn't that summarise Formula One perfectly?
Couldn't
One
be more of a
has
contrast.
bedded himself into the sport and will be part of the sport for decades to
Yeah.
come, and I believe will win World Championship. And for one, unfortunately, and we all like Logan a lot, but it didn't work out, and that summarises the brutality and the harsh nature of this sport, that some will fly like Oscar, and for some like Nick de Vries, like Logan Sargent, it won't work out, and that will happen next season. Some of these drivers will settle in, and they will, like Nico Hülkenberg or Valtteri Bottas, they will be there for a long time to come, and some will fall off.
The one I'm most excited to sort of watch and see what happens is Kimi Antonelli, because I think the pressure on his shoulders is going to be, I imagine it's going to be quite a lot. I don't know if that's how he feels, but I imagine that's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And how he reacts to that, I think, is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, super interesting, because his first kind of like showing was really positive, even though he had that sort of like incident. It almost didn't mean anything because of the speed before it.
So I said at the time, Sam, yeah.
So it was like it's almost like a free sort of experience of him
Also,
pushing the car over the limit.
I love that he had the confidence to bin it. I love
it's
it.
pretty cool.
It's so rock star. It's so cool.
Now, when I get in your car, I kind of have an idea of where the limits are in this formula.
And I'm confident enough to push it to that.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
So cool. Yeah, I'm just buzzing.
Also, I wonder if he's quietly happy that Lewis hasn't had a great exit of the season. He'd be like, well, you know what? Yes, he's a legend, but also slightly less pressure on me, maybe.
But the person who there is pressure on, everybody's been saying this all season, is this kid Kimi Antonelli is quick. So if you're George Russell, you need to prove yourself, because it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Mercedes could go and sign Max in the future.
Yep.
So are they ultimately in a shootout, see who keeps that seat? George has been really... There's something having not been on the last couple of episodes of the podcast, something I've not been able to say and really want to. George has been so impressive. So impressive. And that win last weekend was his best win in Formula One. That win in Vegas, was his best win in Formula One. He was absolutely sensational. So if you're George Russell, you have taken that step up towards the end of the season that you need to take for this young hotshot coming in. I've been really impressed with George end of the season.
I said to Greg in one of the last episodes, I think George is one of the most underrated drivers. No one really talks that much about him. You spend a lot of time talking about everyone else.
He's been very unlucky, because if you consider when he was at Williams and doing so well, he was linked with the seat when Mercedes was still winning titles. Unfortunately, as soon as George stepped into that seat, they lost their competitive edge to Red Bull, and George has barely been able to fight for wins. There's not many times when that car's been quick enough. And last season, George didn't have a good year, and I said on the podcast a lot, it wasn't a great year, but George's, particularly towards the end of this season, we've seen fewer mistakes from him, we've seen more raw speed from him, we've seen him regain that reputation of Mr. Saturday that he had at Williams, where he really nailed it in qualifying. I've been really impressed with George at the end of the season, and that storyline into next year of Russell v Antonelli is fascinating.
And George has come out and he's starting with the fighting talk, isn't it? He's like, we need to give it to Max Verstappen next year.
Yeah, there's an element of there's some definite rough edges between him and Max going on at the moment, which is good for the sport.
It's personality clashes as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. There couldn't be more different.
It's really good though.
Yeah, it reminds me in The Simpsons when Homer and Principal Skinner share a room together. Do you remember that? Kind of gives me that.
I couldn't love Sam Ryder anymore. Now he's doing Simpsons references.
I don't really know who's who.
Well, Principal Skinner is George Russell.
Yeah, but Max definitely isn't Homer.
He is a bit Homer.
He's a bit Homer.
Yeah, he is. He is a bit Homer.
Way?
I think he can switch his brain off and just be quite
brash almost.
Quite brash, yeah.
There was a monorail at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I just walked around the whole weekend going, monorail. Monorail.
Did people understand what you were doing?
Well, the person I was with at the time did, yeah.
I think it's the greatest episode of really anything ever, that.
Oh.
Do you know that episode of The Simpsons was written by Conan O'Brien?
Yeah.
No.
The great Conan O'Brien, yeah.
Did you see
And he
Conan
plays Lyle
O'Brien
Lanley.
eating hot sauce? There's like an interview he's done. Mate, watch
Stunning.
it.
I've seen the YouTube clip.
So good.
Okay.
So good.
I do
Yeah.
love
Also,
Conan.
I wanted to give honourable mention from the last race of Magnussen's overtake on Albon.
Kevin's had a
Around the
stunning
outside.
end to the season.
Turn one, it was, mate, I was
We didn't
laughing,
talk about
man. His
that.
radio.
What was the radio?
Well, he
Off.
off as he takes him round the outside, and I was howling because, like, in my mind, I'm like, that would be, if I was in a race car, that's
would
what
be
you're
you,
doing.
yeah.
Also-
every time you take someone over.
Great old school racing moment. Kevin's race engineer is a guy called Mark Slade, who's worked with Schumacher, Raikkonen, and a little bit, I don't think Mark would mind me saying this, a little bit old school. So you get the overtake done. Kevin goes on the radio, to which Mark replies with, "Nice one, Kev." It was all so banger racing.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
So good,
Nice
man.
one, Kev. Oh, it was just brilliant. I loved that
crackling.
moment. Yeah.
That's wrong, Kev.
Nice one, Kev.
Hear a pint rattling.
fantastic. Mark Slade
Just got
on the
Yeah,
Yeah,
Straight
I
back
was
on the go.
picturing
Yeah.
that, like...
Yeah.
Nice one, Kev. Nice one, Kev.
I was like, see the Silverstone mud and rain, can't you? And just, and
It's
those-
actually, it's a really good point, though. The radio is the thing that roots that mad sport into reality, isn't it? And that's when
Yeah.
you get that's where the cracks show. And that's
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
interesting stuff is. And you hear, I mean, you heard Charles Leclerc a couple of races ago really losing his rag and just sort of his head's gone. And like, that's nice because you see the shiny car and you see the the glamour and
Yeah.
everything. But actually, you've
Makes
got
them
people
human.
who are really exactly.
Because you
His
watch
heart's
them and
racing.
you think, how is a human being doing this? And then you hear the radio and you're like, oh yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what they're like.
that is
That's
what they're
it.
like.
But that's what you like on the
Mate, just
motorway.
around the outside, and it's just you can see him off his last season in Formula One,
Yeah.
and he sends
great.
it, mate.
See ya.
It's
Oh,
so
we'll miss
good.
Kevin.
Actually, one of my favourite moments in a long time.
Very relatable.
Yeah,
Everyone's
so
like
good.
that. Everyone's trying to do
And
that.
I'm glad it was him. I wouldn't want it to be any other driver on that grid apart from K-Mag doing that.
We should talk about some F1 news, shouldn't we? I'm aware we've done a lot of F1 chat, but we've got a couple of bits of news. So we do Sergio Perez in a minute, but first, I'm intrigued to get your thoughts on the Esteban Ocon Jack Doohan early changing of the guard, because this is quite an unusual one. This.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I think it's interesting, though. What do you think?
What I'm trying to understand the reason behind it, because I feel like Esteban and Pierre did a pretty good shift recently for Alpine in the double haul of points, right? So to kind of, and I know they've had their sort of issues with him this season, but to get him out of the seat before the last race, and also that he went out in the last race, bit of a sort of a flat ending.
It's
right?
sad, but I sort of get it at
Well,
the same time.
I think Alpine seem to be quite keen to play the storyline of it releases Esteban so he can do that, because there's a post-season test after the race at Abu Dhabi, and it will give Esteban the chance to drive a Haas for the first time, and everyone's happy. But then the day before we're recording this podcast, Esteban released a quite sassy statement
Yeah.
that went, "This is not the way I wanted it to end.
Yeah, it
I had a
seems quite-
special helmet
Yeah,
designed.
it was the
I
helmet
wanted
design
to
that
go
got
out on a high."
me.
And
Oh, I
it's-
don't like that.
it's-
Makes me sad.
special helmet. Well, let's let you drive our little car then.
No, but that is
See,
sad.
I know you don't feel like that. I know that you, deep inside, you're like,
What?
oh, that's sad.
No, but that
Because
is sad.
He's
He's
probably
got
spent
his-
time,
Yeah,
sat down with
Yeah.
people he likes. Like, oh, do you reckon that's good?
I
Yeah,
think
no,
it's
you're
a
right. That
sign-
colour's wrong. I'll change it.
It's a sign that the working relationship had probably really reached its conclusion with Esteban and the Alpine team.
Yeah.
He wanted to do one last race for Alpine. Clearly, he wanted to go out on a
I
high.
bought a new
In
helmet.
his little helmet.
Guys, what about my helmet?
I've
I'm with
literally
you on the
designed a
helmet.
helmet.
Yeah, I think it's sad.
Probably put loads of work in. He probably, when he went off last race, went, oh, good, I've got more time to work on my last helmet. He was like, sick. Turn one, I'm behind on
Maybe
the...
I'm being overly harsh here.
I think you're being a little bit harsh because
Little bit, yeah.
if you were,
Why?
well, for example, if you were to
You're
leave,
loving playing this part,
I
aren't
just
you?
If
tell,
you-
me why I should,
avocado
tell, me,
again.
tell me why I should care.
In his
if you were
stripy
to
jumper.
know you were leaving the Radio 1 Breakfast show,
Yeah.
and you
Well, I've got a new microphone. Just
and your and your last day
Microphone cover.
was on the Friday,
yeah.
and then you were ill on the Thursday, so you didn't finish the show. And then they went, actually, no, we're putting your replacement in on Friday to give them a bit of a running start ahead of the new week. You'd be a bit like, oh, hang on, do I not get my last show? Do I not get to say goodbye? Do I not get to know?
I think it's.
No, your past don't work
I
at the door
actually think
anymore.
it's just slightly different in sport. I think it's slightly
It's
different.
exactly the same. The Radio 1 Breakfast Show and Formula 1 are exactly the same.
I think in sport it's very difficult to engineer a perfect exit.
Yeah.
And I think you're in danger of sort of making it
I
into
get what you're
like
saying
a
there, actually.
testimonial.
Good,
Well,
good.
When
That's a
actually-
very good
Yeah.
point. It's a very good
we
point.
do want those sort of the Hollywood ending, but those are
Yeah.
engineered. But,
also,
sport
so, like,
isn't shouldn't be.
Lewis deserves a goodbye at Mercedes, whereas
Oh, I hope
Yeah,
his
I know,
last
but-
race is
different,
good, man.
isn't
But
it?
only if he drives well enough to get a goodbye.
Well,
Do you know
Esteban
what I mean?
wasn't
It's-
driving
it's not
too
like-
badly, but
Yeah.
there had been that breakdown of relations. It is a good idea for Jack Doe, and it will really help him. Esteban was very classy in his response, in his Instagram message, saying, by the way, best of luck to Jack. None of this is shade on Jack. That was a really classy
Yeah, that
move
was
that he
nice.
didn't have to do. That
That's
was
cool.
really classy because those two do apparently get on. So yeah, it's unusual. I can't remember a time this has happened. It's happened before, but it's not happened recently. So it's unusual, and it's another element to this Alpine Grand Prix, to this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, to watch how Jack gets on. An early debut for Jack. And by the way, he's been on this podcast a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've spoke to him quite a lot. I like Jack. He's a good guy. So I'm pleased he's getting this opportunity. But it's a bit of pressure on Jack, because if
Yeah.
he goes in and has a bad weekend, that'll linger all off season. So
That's true.
Jack needs to go in and show and sow the right seeds for his first race next season, because it's an opportunity to go in and go, that felt great, or it's also an opportunity to go, well, that was a bit disappointing, that's a bit awkward, and you don't want to carry that all winter.
Should we talk about Red Bull and Checo? Because it looks like he's going to be losing his seat.
Does it?
Well,
How many times have we said this?
we always say this. Well, look.
I hope not, because he's just designed a new helmet.
Gonna keep him for another season.
Terrible waste.
Well, what's the story? Because I'm not totally aware. For some reason, a lot of the sort of the Checo news has passed me. I mean, I know what's going on, but what are the guardian angels keeping this going
Christian Horner has said, Checo has been a wonderful driver for us, certainly in 2021, 2022, 2023. Note, he doesn't say 2024.
Yeah.
We're going to give him all the support we can, all the way to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi. He's old enough and wise enough to come to his own conclusions. There's still a race to go.
Old enough.
Yeah.
It's a bit
It
patronising.
feels
Yeah,
to
it is.
me like so. I believe, and I've said this on the podcast before, I believe that what's been keeping him in the seat, Sam, to answer your question, is off-track stuff, commercial stuff. He reaches a lucrative market. He has backers in the team, and I think initially there was probably an element of Red Bull going, we've been too quick to axe drivers in the past.
Yep, it's
Kvyat, Albon, Gasly, the list could go on. So let's give him time, and all those things because all those things that Christian Horner says is true. He was fantastic in those in 2021 and 2022. He was
Amazing.
a good second driver. But this has gone on far too long. It is not. We're seeing what happens when a professional athlete who should have, frankly, had been put out of his misery sooner has happened. It's hard to watch. It's not fair on Checo, on him mentally. He is not anywhere near operating at the level that he should be. And it's another example of poor driver management by Red Bull. They ditched people in the past too quickly. In the past, they've put people in high pressurised situations too quickly. And in this one, they've kept someone in a high pressurised situation too quickly. And it feels better, you're right. As much as I was being sarcastic, it feels like there is finally a sort of a realisation that this can't carry on. Yes, he's got a contract for next year, and in true football manager fashion, he'll get a lovely old payout, and he'll be able to buy himself a nice holiday and a lovely steak dinner with that. But
Isn't it about 20 million?
Yes, yes.
Massive
big old
steak.
steak.
Can you imagine the tomahawk on there?
Oh, huge, Sam, huge.
The whole cattle
huge.
farm.
5
He'll be able
cows
to have
there.
someone slice it for him if he wants. I'll tell
Yeah.
you. But it's got to be his last race. It
Do you
just
think?
has
Do you
to
think
be.
he feels the same?
No.
Because sometimes drivers get to a point, like, and also speaking on, like, it's sad, isn't it? Because every single, more often than not, should I say actually, that a driver's exit isn't as glorious as we'd like.
like
Kimi
a politician.
Räikkönen, for example.
It's hard
Like,
to go out on a high.
yeah, it's so hard because if you go out on a high, you kind of exiting the stage maybe too early, like before your talent's still there. So I really want Lewis to have an amazing last drive with Mercedes.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Equally, I'd love Perez to actually, because he's an amazing driver when he's on
he's been
form.
fantastic.
But
I say this
it's
all
a
the
long time for it to just be a form thing.
I think he was broken by Miami 2023, and I was working that weekend for the BBC. I was interviewing Checo all weekend. I've been interviewing sports stars for 12 years, and I have never seen such a notable difference between a driver on a Thursday. Checo believed he was in a championship fight. He'd had a really strong start to the season. Checo had won 2, Max had won 2. He was coming into this race. Checo had a great qualifying. Max had struggled. Max had, I can't remember what went wrong, but he was starting 7th or 8th or something. And I asked Sergio Perez after qualifying on the Saturday, what's happening tomorrow? And he was like, no, I'm going to be winning this race. I'm sorry, my teammate's starting 7th or 8th. He won't be anywhere near. And Max overtook him on track and won the race in a dominant fashion. And it was like the lights had gone out when I then spoke to Checo on the Sunday evening.
Really?
It was unbelievable. You could see the difference
He
in the
just didn't
glow of him.
expect it.
It was like Max had come on and reasserted his authority. And I don't believe we've ever seen Checo the same
back
since
from
that weekend. I think that weekend made him realise, I just can't do it. And I actually thought at the start of this season, when we interviewed him, Betty, at Red Bull, where he turned around and went, maybe I don't need to beat Max. Maybe I need to focus on getting the best out of me. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is good. This is a mentality shift.
We thought after that
Yeah.
interview, we were like, oh, he's going to be better
Yeah.
this season, didn't we?
and it just hasn't worked out. And he is.
But that is the mentality that I'd love to see, because he's in an absolutely amazing car. Might not be the fastest, but
it's
it's
up there.
pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah,
the
yeah.
fast, you know. And we all know what he's capable of. And I really, I don't know. I just don't like to see anyone where you know their talents exceed what you're seeing suffering.
Big race, final race of the season, Abu Dhabi. And then there's so much to play out, isn't there? So many little stories to watch out for, and the big stories, of course. You're going to be in the country watching it without a
Without a
NordVPN. I mean,
VPN.
you always should be using your NordVPN
Yeah.
just to
Well,
protect
it's
yourself from the
safety.
public Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But you'll be in Bournemouth. You're going to be on tour.
Yes, I will be.
So are you
which
gonna-
means I'll probably miss the race. Sick.
No, because it's
No.
afternoon, kind of sound check time maybe. I don't know. What time
Yeah,
is it? 1
no,
o'clock
it'll
ish? 1 o'clock, you'll be fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So no sound check that day, which means if you're coming to that show, we're going to sound like trash.
Yeah.
But-
That's fine.
you're doing
That's
tickets available
fine.
now.
So you're doing a handful of shows before Christmas.
Yes, yeah, we're doing 6 shows in towns that often get sort of missed out on the
I
touring
like
circuit,
that.
and yeah, it's really cool. Like, and it's kind of, we just did festival season, like I was saying earlier, and they're in kind of definitely on the beaten track. But I started out playing like in punk bands and metal bands in the alternative scene when I was a kid, like 14 till basically my 20s, and that was kind of the like, that's just the nature of what you do, mainly because the people on the decent venues don't book you, so you have to play sort of off the beaten track. But the vibe is amazing, and it's kind of going back to that energy, and yeah, these amazing crowds are definitely more up for it most of the time.
It's going to be interesting to try out a couple of new
Yeah.
songs you've been working on, I guess.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Nashville.
And it's going to be, I'm so stoked.
And
It's
also
gonna
the
be cool.
Christmas banger.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
The
we love
Christmas
Christmas
banger.
banger.
We were playing it before you came to the studio.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
very
a
much.
great one.
Thank you
Because
very
it was an Amazon thing. It was part of an Amazon film, wasn't it, last Christmas?
Yes.
And so it was only available on Amazon. And to get it, so you got to number 2 in the end.
Yes.
Christmas number
yeah.
2.
Thanks for the support by the way, last year.
Yeah, but it
Appreciate
was one of those ones where it was like, oh my God, if this was on every platform,
It
this
would
would
have
have been a
been number
runaway
one.
number
yeah, I
one.
felt a little bit of Formula One energy in there actually as well.
Yeah.
Last Christmas, like sort of going, sort of trying to go toe to toe with like the Goliaths in that
Yeah.
sort of world, and it was amazing, man. And I love, I always like think about Formula One stuff when whatever like facet it comes. Not my romantic life,
Yeah.
but
I
But,
do
yeah.
actually. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
yeah.
So it's available on all platforms
Yes.
this year, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Do you want to give us a little?
I can get.
Sing
We,
song.
we can finish the podcast on a little Christmas.
Oh, that'd be stunning.
That'd be
Christmas tree.
I don't
If
stunning.
you're up for it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can
know
give it a
anything
go.
about music, but you do, cause Radio 1.
I mean, he knows a lot more.
You both
Yeah.
do. DJ, artist. Kelly Clarkson's Christmas song,
Oh,
Underneath the tree.
Underneath the Tree.
Oh yeah.
That is, in my view, until this song, while Sam's setting up, that was the last good new Christmas song. Sam's is the best new Christmas
That's
song
a
since Kelly
banger.
Clarkson. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I mean.
Absolute banger.
There's a sort of weird myth around this. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, there hasn't been a good one for years." There have been quite
No,
a
there
few.
haven't.
There have been some really
Like
good
what?
ones.
It's Sam and Kelly Clarkson. They are the good new Christmas songs.
One of the modern era. I mean,
The Darkness was good.
The Darkness.
I loved the
The
darkness.
Darkness is. I mean, The Darkness is one of the best bands ever.
Oh,
and
I
that
was
song is
obsessed.
one of the greatest
So,
Christmas songs.
so Kelly's The Darkness and Sam are the best new Christmas songs since 1974.
Well, I also quite like. I think Christmas Lights. Coldplay's pretty good.
No.
You're a big
no.
Coldplay fan, aren't you?
I think that's a good Christmas
yeah,
song.
yeah.
I think it's good.
Fine, it's not as good as Sam's.
Do you know the best bit of the song, which always gets me like it just
Yeah.
it scratches an itch in my brain. It goes that bit.
Oh, okay.
What-
yeah.
what is that? That feels like a-
It's just
Yeah, I
a
love that
melody.
bit.
It's just a
It's
nice
a great,
melody.
it's a great,
It
it's a
speaks
great
to
bit.
you.
It,
It's a
just,
lovely
it does
melody.
something to my
Right.
soul. Yeah.
You can play out our show.
Every time I play
but-
this, I forget how high it is to sing.
Is it really hard?
Yes.
Oh, well, we've got faith in you. It's
I've not
okay,
heard
you
Sam
can
Ryder
do this.
before.
But we will be back after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. You guys are going to be watching it in the
Yes.
studio,
yes,
aren't you?
we are. Yes,
I can't
absolutely.
make
Be
it,
here.
unfortunately.
in
but
here,
Watching it.
watching in here.
I'm going to do
That's gonna be
a
really
studio a studio end of season, like it'd be like a little living
Get
room,
little
won't it?
snacks and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That'd be
Yeah.
so good.
I like watching TV in an airless, windowless room.
yeah, it'd be lovely.
Love it.
Be lovely.
For any questions between now and then, get in touch at Fast Curious Pod. We're on all of your socials. And Sam Ryder, you've been brilliant.
Loads of love, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for
Sam,
having me
thank
on,
you for
honestly.
coming in.
Best
You
thing
are
ever.
one of
Love
my
this pod.
favourite people on the planet. Thank you.
Merry
Bless,
Christmas.
man. Like,
Merry Christmas.
All right.
Merry Christmas.
You're the star upon the tree. You're the only gift I need, and I'd use upon my wishes if it only